Hello and welcome to this video. I just recorded this entire thing without my microphone on, so yeah, let's make sure I'm gonna do it right this time. So here is the problem at hand. The distribution of the number of hours that a random sample of people spend doing chores per week is shown in the pie chart. Use 32 as the midpoint for 30 plus hours. Make a frequency distribution for the data. Then use the table to estimate the sample mean and the sample standard deviation of the set. So we're kind of jumping into this partway through. As you can see, there is no pie chart here. So we're going to assume that you had a pie chart and you were able to fill in the classes and the frequencies. And I did jump ahead. I forgot to delete this from my first go at this video, but I have made two extra columns for myself, midpoint and midpoint times frequency. That's going to be part of what I need in order to find the mean, which is one of the things they've asked for. You'll also see I do have this double bar right here. We're going to need some totals for certain things, so I'm going to write that in there. For instance, we do need the total number of frequencies, total observations, so I'm going to start by putting that right in. Then go to formula, auto sum, and those are my numbers. Okay, so I want that in there. Midpoint. Midpoint is the halfway point between the beginning of the class and the end of the class. So halfway between 0 and 4 would be 2. Halfway between 5 and 9, 7. Halfway between 10 and 14, etc. And then it did say up here in the instructions, it did say use 32 as the midpoint for 30 plus. So for that last category, that last class, we can use 32. All right. Now, if you're wondering why I have this midpoint times frequency, you might be 10 steps ahead of me, but I was looking at the notes that we have on our statistics page. This will be linked in the description. And statistics formula by chapter. And oh, I just had it, bruh. There we go. Mean of a frequency distribution. That's what we have right here. You can see the formula calls for each midpoint times its frequency. And then we're going to sum that, and then we're going to divide by n, and it says note that n is the sum of the frequencies. So we have ourselves set up really quite good actually, because we're going to do midpoint times frequency, and we already have the sum of the frequencies right here. So let's get right into it. Let's do midpoint times frequency. So equals 2, shift 8 to get multiplication, times that one, and then the next row equals, I'm just clicking. I'm not even typing the numbers in. I like to just click rather than type the numbers in, because if I find out later, oh my gosh, I had written 10 instead of 11 or whatever, I can go back and I can change it, and Excel will update all my calculations thereafter. It'll save me so much time. So I always select the cells that I want, and usually after 2, Excel can be like, oh, I see a pattern going on here. So I'm going to select these 2, and I'm going to click and drag this little green box right here and down to the bottom. And it should have filled in following the pattern for me. You see right here, it's C5 times B5, C6 times B6. This next one should be C7 times B7. You can see it is. So Excel knew what I was doing. It filled it in for me. It's always good to double check, but C8, B8, C9, D9. So I didn't have to type all of them in, but you know, either way, it's fine. So those are my midpoints times the frequencies, and referring back to the formula, it does say we have to sum all of those. So we'll just use the auto sum feature again. Love it. And then all we have to do now to find the mean is, now that we have this entire numerator set to go, we have to divide by n. Remember, n is the total of the frequencies, which we have calculated. So let me set this up over here. The mean, it is, oops, sorry, wrong box. There, sorry. Empty box, type in equals, and I'm going to select my total of the midpoint times frequency, and then it has to get divided by the total frequency. And there it is. My mean is 17.11111111. You can always, on the home tab, use the decrease decimal button or increase decimal button to round for you as you'd like. So I'm just going to round that to a tenth. So that is our mean. Love it. Mhm. Okay. The next thing we were asked to find was the sample standard deviation. So sample standard deviation will be over here somewhere. So let's refer back to the formulas here. I think I might have done a goof here. I put this document together a long time ago. And I don't think the formula that we need for this problem is in here, so I apologize to literally everybody who's ever looked at this document about that. But it is still on our website. Um, let's see, chapter 2.4 was where we started talking about measures of variation of this kind. So if you look at the notes for 2.4, it does give you some examples and definitions. And if you scroll down a little ways, it does say the sample standard deviation of group data, which is what we have. So we're going to be using this formula here, which requires us to take each data value, or in this case, each midpoint, subtract the mean, square that result, multiply by the frequency, add that all up, and then divide by one less than the total frequencies, and then find the square root. So that's a lot. We're going to fill in some more, columns in Excel to keep it clear. So the first thing I'm going to write down is midpoint minus mean. That's my first. Where'd you go? Excel, right there. So midpoint minus mean. And I'm just going to do it by doing equals. I'm going to grab my midpoint minus my mean. Okay. Oh, you know what we can do actually? I just thought of something. Let's make this easier for ourselves by opening the right page. Not only do we have to do midpoint minus mean, but that has to be squared. And normally when I do it by hand, I do it, step by step. I do midpoint minus mean, find that, and then square. But you know what? Excel can do the whole shebang all at once. So I'm going to put this in parentheses. I'm going to do the midpoint minus mean in parentheses. And then I'm going to do shift 6 to get the caret and square it. Oh, that rhymed. Let me update my header here as well, because what I'm actually doing is just one big chunk to save myself some time. Midpoint minus mean squared. Okay. All right, so let's run through that from the beginning with this next one in the proper order. So equals, parentheses, midpoint minus mean, close parentheses, caret 2 to square it. Next one equals, parentheses, midpoint minus mean, close parentheses, caret 2, square it. You might be able to click and drag and get the pattern here. I'm just gonna. This was kind of a bigger one than the other one, so I'm just gonna do them. So parentheses, midpoint minus mean, close parentheses, and square it. Midpoint minus mean and square it. Almost there. Midpoint minus mean and square, and then the last one, parentheses, midpoint minus mean and squared. Okay, so we just did a big chunk right there. We just did what was in parentheses here. We did the midpoint minus mean all squared. Next up is we have to multiply the results we got for each by their frequencies. I guess we could have done that all in one step as well, but I don't want to overload you too much. If you get comfy with this and you want to just go for it, by all means, you could. Totally could. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do another column. Midpoint minus mean squared, which we have, and it's going to get multiplied by frequency. So times frequency. The cat just made a suspicious noise. I've got 3 cats, and one of them likes to steal her brother's food while he's sleeping, so I gotta keep an eye on that. But that's irrelevant to math, isn't it now? Okay. So we did the midpoint minus mean squared. Those are all these numbers right in here. Beautiful. The next step is take each of these numbers and multiply it by the corresponding frequency. So this is actually a lot easier than it looks when I wrote down the column header. I'm going to literally just take this number here times frequency. That's all I'm going to do. So equals this times this. Let's see if Excel picks up the pattern, because I'm in a lot of typing. I just don't want to do it. Oops, did I goof that up? E5 and B5, E6 times B6. You gonna work with me here? All right. You certainly can type them all out if you'd like to. If you do the shortcut like that, I like to go through and double check to make sure that Excel knew exactly what pattern I was wanting it to pick up on. So you can see that the pattern here. We've got E6 times B6, 7, 7, 8, 8, so those were all good. So back to our formula, we have now done all of this in the numerator except for the sum part, but that's okay. We can just sum that right up. Click right below that column and go to my formulas, do auto sum, and it's going to guess what you want to sum. Yes, that is correct. Okay. So now we have this, the entire numerator is taken care of, thank goodness. The next thing is to divide that number that we just got by n minus 1. Remember that this number right here is n. So in our case, n minus 1 is going to be 89. So if we take empty cell here, I'm going to type equals, and I'm going to select that sum and divide by n minus 1, or 89. This will get me the variance, actually, but we want the standard deviation, so to find that, the last step, according to the formula, is to square root the whole shebang, that last number we just got. So I'm going to type in my box here, equals SQRT, parentheses, and I'm going to select that number I got when I did that division. Close parentheses, enter, and there is my standard deviation. Hooray. And hopefully my microphone was recording this whole time, because I don't want to do this again. Not that I don't love it. Let's round this to, wrong way, sorry. There we go. If we round this to one decimal place as well, we get 7.8. So this document is available for download if you email me. You can certainly have a copy of it. You can see exactly how it was all set up, and you can practice and play with it if you want. Like I said, the way that I have it set up here is that if I found out, oh shoot, this number was off by 1, watch what happens if I change this. And then hit enter. Bunch of things just updated. Everything just changed. So if you ever find out you goofed up on one single number, doing it this way makes it very, very easy to change later. So I think that's it for this question. That's it. We have the mean, we have the sample standard deviation. I will make sure that there are links to the statistics page and the notes with the formulas. And if you want a copy of this, just let me know. Other than that, I wish you the best of luck.